Hello there. We take our second session in the Microsoft Excel program, which is under the Office Suite in Education course. Our focus in this session is on how to create and manage formulas. The power of spreadsheet programs are the ability to compute and recompute results. Computations done by these programs are based on formulas that are defined for or given them by the user. Without formulas, a spreadsheet would only contain a static, never-changing set of numbers. This lesson teaches us how to create formulas in spreadsheet programs, and in our case, we will be using the Microsoft Excel program. If we are to refresh our memory on what formulas are, we have learned that it is an expression telling the computer what mathematical operation or other action to perform upon specific values. Another definition for formula is a statement that performs a calculation. Another considered definition would be a formula is an expression given to a spreadsheet program to compute a result. We learned in our first session that a formula must always start with an equal sign. After you have brought your equal sign, which is used to signal the program that the entries you are making is a formula can also contain cell references, arithmetic operators, values, and Excel built-in functions. In constructing formulas, we mostly use the cell references instead of the values. Let us look at what mathematical operators we may be using. Now, kindly note that knowledge in mathematics forms the basis for the construction of formulas. Constructing formulas in spreadsheet programs is just a transformation of the formulas, that is mathematical formulas we know, into forms that the spreadsheet can understand and work with. So know that here you need to be good with your mathematics, how to use formulas to compute. You should know what formulas can be used to compute some results, and here you transform those formulas in the manual form into the form that the spreadsheet program can work with or can understand and work with. Every formula will contain mathematical operators. Basic arithmetic operators are given to us here in this table. So if you remember your board mass very well, it applies here. That is the order of precedence of arithmetic operators. Whatever you learned under board mass applies in the use of these operators in spreadsheet programs as well. So under board mass, you know that the brackets will come first, and therefore this means that whenever calculation is being performed by the computer, whatever is enclosed within a bracket, if there is any, will be computed before any other operator. Then followed by the exponents. Now normally this is how we write the exponents in normal math, but under the spreadsheet programs we use this symbol to represent the exponents. Okay, so over here you see, for example, you have 2 raised to the power 2, yet we're using as 2, then this symbol representing the raised to the power 2 here. Alright, so after the exponents comes the division sign, and note that division and multiplication are at the same levels in board mass, which means in performing calculation, if the spreadsheet program meets the division sign and multiplication sign, whichever appears first will be used in performing the operation. Okay, will be used in performing. So whatever values or operands that are, if let's say division sign comes before multiplication, whatever operands appear around division will be used to compute, will be calculated first. Okay. However, if multiplication appears in the formula before division, then it means multiplication will be used to compute. So first come, first serve appears here. Now the symbol in the computer for representing division as you see here is the /. Okay, so we don't use this, we don't have any operator as this in computing. We use the / to represent the division symbol or sign. For multiplication symbol, we use the asterisk to represent multiplication. So in creating formulas, if you enter X as your operator for multiplication, it won't work unless you use the asterisk symbol. Then after the division and multiplication, which are the third levels, we have addition and subtraction being at the last level. And here whatever was said under these division and multiplication applies. That is, addition and subtraction are at the same level. So whichever appears in performing calculation, whichever will appear first, any values appearing around that operator will be computed before whichever appears last. But if let's say division and addition appears in the formula, irrespective of whether addition appears first or division appearing first, whatever values appears around the division will be computed before that of the addition. How do we create a formula in Spreadsheet? There are two ways to create a formula, but for now we will be considering the first option. In subsequent time we will look at the other one, even though the information may follow. So we are going to learn how to use the typing method to create a formula. The steps are given as follows. 1. Select the cell that will contain the formula. Once you select it, you know that you have made it the active cell. 2. Type the equal sign. Once you do that, you notice that it appears, the equal sign appears in both the cell and the formula bar. 3. Type the cell address of the cell you want to reference first in the formula. 4. Type the mathematical operator you want to use. 5. Type the cell address of the cell you want to reference second, a second in the formula. 6. Repeat step 4 and 5 if there are other values and operators to be added. And once you are done, press the Enter key on your keyboard to complete. Once you press the Enter key, the results will be computed using the formula, and it will be displayed in the cell in which you entered the formula. However, if you want to see the formula that was used, then it will be displayed in the formula bar. I'll come back to this formula later, method later. Constructing formulas. In constructing formulas, users should mostly use the cell references. I'm emphasizing here again. Users should mostly use the cell references instead of the actual values contained in the cells. Cell references, as you already have learned, is simply the name given to a cell. It is also called cell address. If you will recollect, each column is assigned a letter heading, and each row is also assigned a number heading. We combine the column and row headings to get the cell references or addresses. Column headings must come before the row headings all the time. So for instance, you have A1, C2, and D8, if you will recollect in our previous lesson. Okay, so we have let's say this is a spreadsheet, okay, a worksheet, and we are going to learn how to create simple formulas before we actually go into the program. Alright, so we have these two values here, 23 and 90. Now, if I want to add these two values in this cell, normally in math, you will type equals 23 plus 19. And when you type this, the Excel program will compute the results correctly for you. But we are telling you that this is not the most appropriate way to create your formulas. Rather, you should be using the cell references of the cells in which the values are contained in. So instead of 23 and 19, it should be A1. Okay, so we are referring to this cell address, okay, plus B1. Okay, the cell name for this is what? A1. And this one is called B1. This is the cell you are referring to. So you are saying use the cell addresses. And the reason is very simple. What we will be telling the Excel program to do is that go into the cell called A1 and go into the cell called B1 and use whatever values you find in there to compute a result for me. I hope you understand. So if, let's say, I change this value to 25, it doesn't have any problem. All the time, the spreadsheet program will go and pick any value that is found in A1 and use in computing the results. Let's say I want to multiply 10 by 44. What do you think the formula will be? Yes. You will bring your equal sign because it must always come first. Then you bring the cell address or reference for this cell containing the value 10, and the cell address, as we have learned, for this one will be A2. Okay, so A2, we are multiplying. So what multiplication symbol do we have for the computer? Yes, you have learned that the multiplication symbol in computing is the asterisk symbol. So we bring it, or we type asterisk, and then we type this last cell reference containing the last value here, and here the value is 44, and this value is found in cell B2, so we type B2. What about if you want to divide 23 by 10 in this cell. What do you think the formula will be? Try your hands on it on paper. Alright. So if you did it correctly, it will be equals A1 / which is the symbol in computing for division. So A1 / A2, because 10 is found in cell A2, so A2. I hope you are following. If, let's say, I want to add these two values and multiply it by 10, what formula will we use or create? We want to add these two values multiplied by 10. Yes, I know what some of you are thinking. You may type equals A1 plus B1, isn't it? Let me expand this a bit. Multiplied by A2. I want to ask, do you believe this formula is correct or wrong? Those of you who guessed wrong are right. Why? Because you know that in the order of precedence, when multiplication is found in the expression with addition, you know that multiplication is at a higher precedence than that of the addition. So you should note that the values contained in B1 and A2 will be multiplied before it will be added to the value in A1. So if you want to ensure that the values contained in these two cells are added before being multiplied by A2, then we have to put this in brackets. Why? Because we know that in the order of precedence, bracket is superior to multiplication, and therefore whatever is contained in brackets will be operated on first before whatever operation that is affected by multiplication will be done. I hope you are following. All right. I want to find the what will be, I want to find the results of 50 raised to the power 5. I want the system to compute that for me. What do you think the formula will be? In this cell, try your hands on paper, creating a formula in the format that we are just learning. Okay, so yes, it will be equals, we bring this value here, cell reference, which is B3 raised to the power. Please, the exponent symbol is found on the number 6 at the alphanumeric area. So normally you press your shift key and then you press the key with 6 on it. Okay, so we have the raised to the power there. We say to the power of what? 5. So you type 5. Now here you notice that I am including a value instead of using a cell reference. The reason is very simple. Whenever you want a value to be a constant in the formula, then you type the value itself. That is, the value will never change whenever a recomputation is being done. Okay, whenever you change, let's say, this number here or this value here, okay, it is only if, let's say, I change this to 60 in the formula, the value here will be picked, then raised to the power 5, which means the 5 never changes. It is a constant value in the formula. So it means that actual values can be included in formulas, but you should only do so when you want those values to remain, no matter how many times the recomputation is to be done on value changes that are made in the cells containing the values. I hope you understand it now. Alright, let's take some examples or samples, actual samples in Spreadsheet. So let me launch the Spreadsheet program, which is Excel 2013. Okay, so let me open it. I remember we created Excel practice 1. Let me click it. Alright, there we have it here. So we are going to use this as our first example. Okay, so I hope you will also open yours on your system. These are the scores for Samuel Arthur. Okay, and we want to find the total mark for Samuel Arthur. So how will we create a formula to give us the total mark for Samuel? Okay, so the first thing we will do is to type equal sign, then we have to type the first cell reference, which is B2, And once you type B2, you notice that the B2 cell is selected. And then once you are adding, you note that the addition sign will come. So you type the addition sign. The next cell containing a value you want to add is C2. So I'll type C2. And you notice that cell is also selected. Then I'll bring the addition sign and type the next one, which is D2. Bring my addition sign and type the cell reference for this value, which is E2. And once I am done entering all the operands and operators, I will press the Enter key on my keyboard. Once I press the Enter key, you notice that the results is computed for us here automatically by the computer. When I click it, I click the cell containing the computed results, you see that in here you see the results. But when you check the formula bar, the formula we created to be used in computing the result as given appears in the formula bar. Okay, appears in the formula bar. Alright, now let me change. Let's say I made a mistake in entering Samis math result. Let's say it was 62 and I made it 50. So I'm going to change it. I'll just click it and change it to 62. And then I'll press Enter. After pressing Enter, what do you see here? The computer automatically recomputes the results with a new value that is assigned. If you remember in our first lesson, we said what gives Excel or spreadsheet its power is its ability to recompute results automatically. Okay? Let me change this to, let's say, 74. I press the Enter key and you notice that automatically the computer recomputes the results. This is because we used the cell references. If I had used the actual values, let's say 62 plus 74 plus 68 plus 70, then I'll press the Enter key. You notice that the results here are the same, 274, 274. But should I change this to, let's say, 80 and I press Enter, what do you see here? This one is recomputed, but this result here remains the same. Why? Because we made the values constant in the formula. And therefore, no matter whatever changes we make in the values here, it will not be reflected in this result. That is why we say always use the cell references if the values are contained in cells. But if the values are not contained in cells and you want those values to be constant, then of course you can include them in the formula. Okay, what will be the formula for computing Constance's results? Try your hands on it on the computer. Alright, let's see if what you entered is correct. So you type your equal sign, and then we would have B3 plus C3 plus D3 plus E3. And when you are done, you press the enter key. So there you have it. Also try your hands on Stacy's Of course, it will be equals B4 plus C4 plus D4 and plus E4. Press enter. Try your hands on Christopher's. Of course, if you entered equals B5 plus C5 plus D5 plus E5, then you are correct. Let's press the enter key. Alright, so there we have our results. I hope you are delighted that you're able to create your first formulas in Spreadsheet.